I'm it out. Only time will tell. It's gonna take a lot, 'cause we've been through hell. I can't be without you. I've tried and I failed. So can we work it out? Only time will tell. Why do you keep telling me nothing?
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Life Well Lived by Amabala Stephen. It's an engaging and enlightening talk show on life, relationships, and the business of life. Grab a cup of juice and just chill. Life Well Lived by Amabala Stephen. Live life. Live fully.
Welcome to Live Well Lived by Mobile Stephen. Now, if you want to catch up with some of my missed episodes, you can go online and search for Live Well Lived by Mobile Stephen on any search engine, or perhaps you can hook up with me on my social media handles, on my Twitter handle at Omobala Eliza, on my LinkedIn, Omobala Stephen, on my Facebook page, Blue Buttons Communication, also on my Instagram page, Mobala_S. Now, on today's show, I have Dr. Sarit Levy, who is the Marketing Director and Administration for Network Capital, consultant in multiple industries, a thought leader, a CEO, and a Chief Strategy Officer.
So thank you so much for having me.
Can my audience meet you?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Sarit Levy. I'm a subject matter expert in entrepreneurship, innovation, and marketing. I am currently still a part-time professor at NYU, formerly at the University of Miami, Director of Marketing and Advertising for Network Capital, specialize in multiple industries and across business, expert in developing business and marketing plans as well for business, and predicting the best performing firms in the United States, and then further for the NASDAQ. If you can predict, what's going to happen in your organization and how well it's going to perform, then clearly you could, predict it in other areas as well. And I'm published in 7 journals around the world, specifically in business, entrepreneurship, and marketing and innovation.
All right, great. Thank you for that introduction. Now, can you tell me about Network Capital?
Sure. Network Capital is an industry leader in the fintech space, financial technology space. We specialize in the refinancing of existing mortgages. As a direct lender, we certainly do all types of loans, from conventional to veteran loans. But certainly, we've definitely carved a niche for ourselves in the refinancing sector.
Oh, right. So some people consider refinancing a home a poor idea. Now, do you have any contrary view about that?
It's actually quite the opposite. And I think that something that's interesting, it's interesting that you bring that up. Many individuals don't understand the process. They're not as, educated. They're very excited about getting their first home, but they don't know what happens after that. And how do they reinvest, money into their home to remodel their kitchen or pay for their kids' college education? And refinancing really allows you to do that. It allows you to reduce your payments on a monthly basis. It allows you to maybe shorten your mortgage. It allows you to cash out. So in essence, you end up paying sort of the same as you were paying before, because you're reducing your payments and you're able to cash out. And I think that there's a misnomer there that a lot of people don't understand, and especially the younger generation, the millennial market, which is definitely a prime target market for us. They're not as well versed in refinancing as they are in purchasing their first home. And, obviously maintaining a home can be very, very expensive. So it's important that, you can reinvest in, whether it's the roof or business remodeling, or maybe you just want to take, a really nice family vacation, and the savings in your home allows you to do that. So refinancing is really a really positive way of utilizing your savings and your equity and still maintaining payments that you can afford on your home.
Right. Now, so how low is the current mortgage rate at Network Capital?
So at Network Capital, our bankers are really, able to, provide the interest rate depending on, the parameters that they're looking at to get financed, or refinance rather. But currently we have a 2.25% APR with 2.79% I'm sorry, 2.25% interest rate with 2.75 APR. And so our rates are really, really competitive. We close loans in as little as 15 days. So that's really exciting. We're really, really based on speed and accuracy when it comes to financial technology. And I think that that's really important because the market changes so rapidly, and you really want to get your foot in the door, close your loan, and be able to cash out or whatever it is you want to do, with your money. And we really focus on that here. And that's definitely a key. I would say that the key to our entire philosophy, rather, is for people to improve their quality of life. And our company motto is to live better. So that's exactly what we're trying to do, is help people live better.
Oh, great. Now, I want us to talk about you. Now, I know that you're a university professor, also and a serial entrepreneur. So I want to ask you, how do you juggle and balance these conflicting priorities?
That's a great question. That's probably the age-old question. Somebody once said to me, "You live the life of 10 people." I do, and I'm a mom as well. I have 2 daughters. One is in the college process now, just got into University of South Florida, and she is almost 18. Very exciting. And the other one is 9. So I still have a younger one at home, and I'm a single mom as well. So that's also difficult. But to be honest with you, I think when you have the passion and the drive to do something and you want to make a difference in this world, you do it. When you want to go and lose weight, you go on a diet. When you want to better yourself mentally, you go see a therapist, and so I think that I take advantage of the resources around me. Yes. And I use my time very wisely. I wake up in the morning and I don't stop. I go. I've been out of the house since 7 o'clock this morning before I even got to the office to meet you. I had an 80-90 mile drive to the office today.
Wow.
Yeah. And I got my little one off to school, obviously, before that with the help of a partner. So, it's quite, exhausting, but you have to have a good attitude and a good spirit. I think that's really, really key in being able to excel in anything that you do.
That's right. Absolutely. Now, can we talk about knowledge reciprocity and consumer engagement?
Oh, absolutely. So I love this concept of knowledge reciprocity. And I had developed an article several years ago. I've been doing remote work for over 10 years, and I've done both, of course, hyper-localized as well. But one of the things that I found was that the reciprocity of engagement between an individual, and whether it's a teacher and a student, or or an executive and their staff, or a husband and wife, or partners, the reciprocity of continuing that relationship and encouraging that relationship is so existential to the success of each person individually. And by improving that engagement, by sharing knowledge, by accepting knowledge, by acknowledging what other influencers in your life might say, by providing them influence, I believe, and I've proven this in a study, that reciprocity increases performance. And I did a study a number of years ago. I looked at 400 students in different universities. And what was interesting about that was none of these students knew about the study. They didn't know about, me, or about, the other teachers that were featured in other schools. And every single student pretty much declared in their survey data that when a teacher understood their market, their verbiage, their language, like today texting is huge, right? So using the same terminology, when they're current and they're relevant with their students' own resources and the things that they're doing in their life, it becomes a means for the student to want to perform better. And that translates into business very easily. If you walk into a restaurant and you acknowledge the waitress or waiter by their name, they're immediately going to take a greater interest in responding to you. And yeah, and so that was a very important element for other studies that came about, and one of them being sustainable business methodologies in teaching, and being able to keep up that level of engagement in an online classroom, and then also the value of your alliances, both virtually and hyper localized. How are you using those alliances? How are you exchanging information? And so it's not just about the physical methodology, but it's about the mental methodology in that reciprocity. And many students in that specific study, and they were all business and marketing related at the time, had said that if they had a relationship with their instructor, then following their education, once they graduated, they would tend to continue that relationship and look for, input from that instructor. And I'm living proof of that, because I had a student that was a student of mine, I'd say in like 2013, maybe. And as late as yesterday, she had contacted me for a reference letter for her. Now she was going for her PhD, and which is exciting to hear. And a number of years ago, I would say it was about 2018 or 17, I had received a phone call from a student that I hadn't heard from in 10 years. And this was amazing, because this woman, her name was Ruth, and she was an African-American woman who was on disability, who was taking care of herself and her mother, trying to go back to school, very limited means. And it was very early on in my career that I had met her, becoming a professor, and then obviously, expanding to corporate America and becoming on the C-suite. And at the time, she had only taken maybe one or two classes with me, and it was the last couple of classes of her bachelor's degree in business. And she said, "I'm always going to remember you, Doc." And I said, "Okay." And 10 years after I met her, she contacted me on New Year's Eve. And this was a woman who came from very limited means, really had no education prior. Her family had no education. And she called me out of the blue. And the reason why I was confused when she first called was she called me by my former married name. So I hadn't heard that name in a number of years. And she said, "Is this Dr. Seal?" And I said, "Yes, I go by Dr. Levy. Who is this?" And she said, "It's Ruth. Do you remember me?" And I said, "Of course I remember you, and we started talking. And she said, "Well, I'm calling to tell you that you were such an important influence in those last two classes at, this particular school, that today, because of you, I am graduating my PhD."
Wow.
And it was so inspiring. And so I chose to take that and in my day-to-day work, really improve upon the organizational behavior and the reciprocity of relationships within organizations as well. And ultimately it affects the bottom line and the profit margins. And so I think if you can really, if you take the scale that I had developed, which is to predict the best performing firms, and you utilize those tools, you really can have some fabulous output as a leader in your organization and improve your ROI.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for that. Now, it's been lovely by Marvelous TV. Now, I've been having this engaging, on what we're discussing with Dr. Sarit Levy, who is the marketing executive also for Network Capital. Also, a faculty at NYU, formerly University of Miami. She's a C-suite executive and consultant in multiple industries, a top leader, a CEO, and a chief strategy officers. Now, your career base, can you share some of the patents that you have facilitated?
The patents. Yes. I've had clients that I've developed business plans and marketing plans for and whatnot. Many people come to me with ideas because innovation obviously has a lot to do with that. And within the scale that I developed, one of the contributors I found that contributes to a best performing firm, and I studied over 1,500 CEOs in South Florida, two firms, a gentleman from Wharton and a gentleman from Harvard actually decided to take the scale to replicate it around the world in Suriname, Jamaica, Croatia, Latin America, and Central Europe. So one of the contributors that I found out was how many patents are being produced at an organization, how many ideas are being generated. And that helps to facilitate growth, especially when you have an employee, let's say, that's not quite at the top. We have a lot of bureaucratic organizational hierarchy, in business. And so it's really exciting to be able to offer the ability to get that knowledge from somebody on a different level and help improve, the organization. And two of the patents that I have worked on, one was I had a student who later became a client who wanted to develop a headband for jogging that had earphones in it. Now that's a very basic sort of simple, ideology for a runner or jogger or whatnot. And I said, you know what, let's take this a step further. I kind of think outside the box. And I said, let's make it fully immersible in water so that you can throw it in a washing machine because you're sweating, right? And that way you can really be able to utilize it, clean it, have it also work as a heart rate monitor, sort of like a combination of a Fitbit and a phone with iTunes or something like that. And we got the patent on that approved. And then I had another client also that I helped facilitate and write the claims for the patent and assist with that. And of course, I've worked with patent agents and whatnot to assist. But this particular one was similar to a watch, like an Apple iWatch or a Samsung Galaxy Watch. And it allowed for a biometric locking system. So the idea was that instead of one locking system, I said, well, why don't we have two with a flexible metal strip that allowed for if a child was taken or attempted to be taken or something of that nature, this biometric locking system would click into place immediately after the first one was broken. It also allowed for the child to draw, let's say, a tree, any type of, physical item, which would immediately send a signal and alert law enforcement. So, those patents hang on the walls of clients. But, I definitely had a hand in that. It was very, very exciting. And I myself am enrolled full-time in law school as well. So I certainly enjoy intellectual property. And it was something that I studied when I was quite young. One of my very first jobs in college, I went to college at 16. And one of my very first jobs was as an intellectual property law firm.
Oh, wow. Great. Wish you best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
What impact has the pandemic made on your business? Now, what has been the overall outcome as regards to customer relations?
That's also a really great question. I would say that the impact on business is not quite what people are thinking. You see, the fundamentals of business don't change. People work, robots work. There's a bottom line. That bottom line feeds families and goes back into the economy. It's really a very same or similar structure to anything. When the economy is making more money, of course, people feel the burn more when they lose it. But the structure of business really doesn't change. What is important is still getting yourself out there from a marketing perspective at a time when many people can't, and finding creative ways and solutions to do that, whether it's via a podcast, whether it's holding a hosted event. And I think there are some industries, obviously, that have been affected much greater. The event industry is quite affected. However, people have transitioned to do virtual events and charge, nominal fees for that. So it's really important that people in business think about the exploration of how to expand their ability to market their particular product. People are still going to wear clothes. They're still going to shop at the grocery store. They're still going to go, want to feel close with other people and go to a family member, in need. They're still going to have the humanitarian concerns of helping others. I had worked with a nonprofit called the Justice Center. And throughout the pandemic, we fed over 900 families in Palm Beach County. And all we did really was contact the farmers and said, hey, if we can get a tax break for all your overage of your fruits and vegetables that restaurants are not buying now, and take that and feed families, will you help us? Will you give it to us? And Trump at the time, there was a bill that was passed for, I think, $18 million, something in tax break for farmers. I think it started before him and then continued throughout his duration as presidency. And so the exciting thing about that was there are ways to get grants. There are ways to get funding to help those families and those businesses in need. And in turn, it can help other people. So it's really a matter of looking inward and saying, I've done things the same for so long. Let me change it up and do something differently. And I'm happy to help the organization, obviously, with that, advice and look at their, bottom line. Now, what I will say is that I find that the larger organizations and corporations, the legacy brands that are around, it's a little disappointing that they haven't prepared necessarily a safety net. Some of them have, and they've been around for quite a long time, but some of them have not. And you would think as corporate business executives and leaders that would be something that all companies would think of. But I look at this not as a responsibility of the organization, but as an opportunity. So when we think of corporate social responsibility, we think of things we have to do. And I think of it as things we should do and want to do so that not only we protect ourselves and our organization, but we protect our customer base as well, and our society. So I hope that I can encourage corporate social opportunity rather than responsibility.
Oh, great. Now, I'm winding up with this question. As a thought leader, do you have any prospective business advice you'd like to share with my audience, especially in this pandemic and beyond?
Well, it's a hard question because business advice can be so pertinent to specific industries, right?
Okay, it can be relative.
So it's very subjective, depending on the industry. In the fintech space, I would say that refinancing right now, the rates are very low, and so it really gives people an opportunity to leverage that, something that they don't normally think of. For businesses that are small mom and pop and that have been withstanding the pandemic, continue to do what you're doing, continue to engage your customers through social media and digital marketing efforts and localized efforts, create events, create any interactive communication pieces, blogs, white papers, things that you feel that you're an expert on. If you have the best recipe for pizza, put that out there for your customers to see. Another thing I think for businesses is to show that you're still human. Show your employees what they're doing. What are they doing at home remote? How are they working to benefit you? And I think a lot of companies fail to do that. They fail to show that side. And remember, your employees are your first customer. So I think that that's really, really a significant piece of advice for any corporate executive, any leader, any mom and pop. And I would say, thinking outside the box, coming up with different strategies, and make yourself a new budget. And in that budget for the upcoming year, include these sort of items that we wouldn't expect. Add something to your bottom line, 10%, 20%, 30%, whatever it is, to account for things like natural disasters or a pandemic. And while we may never see pandemic again, it still will allow you to save and add to your bottom line, which the goal at the end of the day for a business is profitability.
That's right. Thank you so much, Dr. Sarit Levy, for coming to Lawali by Marvelous TV. Now, do you have any parting word? For my audience?
No, feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'm sure Umla will share my contact information. I'm happy to help, and also I think for the women, that are out there, it's really a great time for you to demonstrate your abilities in terms of work-life balance, excel, as a women leader. Use your stories at home with your children as life lessons. Use your experience in the grocery store. Use your experience in the office, and I think you can really, really make change. And really help lead this pandemic to safety for all individuals and for our society.
All right, brilliant. Thank you once again. Now, it's been Lawali by Marvelous TV. I remain yours affectionately, Marvelous TV. Now, let's do this some other time. Catch you.
Thank you so much.
say it again, say it again. You're saying you're sorry, so say it again. Only you can make my world go black.